Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 20th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting. Director of Finance, Katie, would you please take the roll?
Sure. Mayor Tack,
Here.
Chairman Weber,
Here.
Alderman Novick,
Here.
Alderman Clement,
Here.
Alderman Note,
Here.
Alderman Power,
Here.
Alderman Bothfeld,
Here.
Alderman Levert,
Here.
Alderman Walther.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Our first item of business this evening is a consideration of minutes from our Finance Committee meeting held on July 21st, 2025. Are there any edits or comments on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, we'd like a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item of business tonight is the city's mission statement and fiscal year 27 fiscal policy. As part of our annual budget process, the City Council Finance Committee is asked to affirm the city's mission statement. It's also requested that the fiscal year 2027 fiscal policy be formally adopted for use in preparing for the 2027 fiscal year budget. And Director Skibby, are there any other comments you'd like to share about that?
No, this kicks off the budget process, and staff are not recommending any changes this year.
Wonderful, thank you. Our recommended action tonight is to affirm the city's mission statement and approve the fiscal year 2027 fiscal policy. May I have a motion? So moved. In a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, we'll move on. Our next item is police and fire pension funding update, and I will turn this over to our Director of Finance.
All right, thank you. Included in your packet is a lot of information about how the city finances their pension programs. Happy to answer any questions about that, but we're going to go over just a few highlights from the information that was included. So the city has 3 pension plans: the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, the police pension, and the fire pension. All of the benefits and the employee contribution rates are set by state statute, and those do change from time to time. Right now, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund employees contribute 4.5%. For police, they contribute 9.91%, and for fire, they contribute 9.455%. The city's employer contributions are determined by an independent actuarial valuations. So Nyhart is our actuary, and they determine the city's contributions based on many different assumptions that the city works with the pension subcommittee to set. As of right now, the city's contributions for IMRF is 6.77%, for police is 87.3%, and for fire is 71%. All 3 pensions also have 2 tiers of benefits as of 2011. As our Tier 1 participants age out of the system and retire, we have more and more Tier 2 employees in the system. The city does not have any authority over investments in any of the 3 pension systems. Up until somewhat recently, we did have control over police and fire investments, but in 2020, there was a statewide consolidation. And since then, we have seen investment returns increase and management fees decrease. This just shows over time how we have had more and more Tier 2 employees in the system. We are not really recognizing much of a decrease in contributions yet, because all of these employees are still active. In 2016, the city of Lake Forest did an overhaul of all of our pension funding, recognizing that if the city continued to contribute the statutory minimum, there was quite a large ramp up to 2040 when the state has required us to be 90% funded in the plan. We started to make additional contributions and changed a lot of actuarial assumptions to reduce that ramp. Some of the assumptions that were changed is the payroll growth went from 5.5 to 2.0, and the investment return went from 7% to 6.5. At the graph below, you can see how that immediately started to reduce that ramp. Immediately started to reduce that ramp and equalize the contributions over the years.
Katie?
Yes.
So this graph, I think, is really important for people to see and understand. The savings from doing this is the area under the blue curve between the blue and the red. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, I mean, for the public and those who don't know, that's real money. So this was a really critical change in the way we did business that is going to continue benefiting the community for quite a time to come.
And I'll just add to the mayor's point. I know we had looked at this about a year ago, and based on the data at the time, the cumulative savings from that crossover point till about 2040 were close to $25 million for the community. So just emphasizing the mayor's point.
Thank you. This August, the pension subcommittee met to review all the actuary reports. Nyhart did a presentation for the pension subcommittee. The subcommittee includes members of each pension and some members of the public as well. We also reviewed the status of the modeling and looked at the assumptions to see if anything needed to change. As of right now, the pension subcommittee is recommending that we keep the same actuarial assumptions and overall have said that the city's approach remains on course to meet our funding obligations without significant increases in contributions. That is best shown by this graph here. This shows in red is the statutory minimum for what the Illinois state says that we need to be contributing. You can see even with what we have done, if we decided to only contribute the red, there would still be quite a ramp up to 2040. Instead, the gray is what we are actually contributing and remains rather flat until 2040. You'll also see that we are aiming for 100% funded by 2040 instead of 90% funded. The dashed line shows what we could pay if we chose to aim for 90% funded instead. So overall, all the city's efforts have been extremely successful in reducing pension costs. And then lastly, this is the same graph just for the fire pension instead of the police pension. The state legislatures frequently talk about changes to the state pension systems, including police and fire. Most recently, there's been a lot of talk about repealing Tier 2 pensions. So that would mean anyone who is currently on track to receive a Tier 2 pension would now be eligible for a Tier 1 pension. So there are, a decent amount of benefits that they would receive if they were able to have a Tier 1 pension. And we reached out to Nyhart just to start to quantify the cost of a repeal of a Tier 2 pension. And for police, our annual contributions would go up by $542,000. Fire would be another $451,000. So that's just per year. And then in the first year, our unfunded liability for police would increase by $2.4 million, fire by 1.8. And then if you look at the net present value of the increases through 2055, which is 30 years out, it would be $9.3 million for police and $8.78 million for fire. So staff continue to work with our state legislators and the Illinois Municipal League, people in the community, to make sure that everyone knows that there is a large cost to repealing Tier 2.
Katie, real quick, isn't it also assumed that the date will get kicked down the road if they shift from a tier 2 to a tier 1. So
Are correct.
the 2040 date would no longer be realistic, and that would likely become what, 2050, 2060?
The current proposal looks at 2055.
Okay.
That does decrease what the annual contribution would need to be, but every year we have an unfunded liability. We're paying interest on that unfunded liability. So there is a substantial long-term cost to it, even if they move the amortization period out to 2055.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
That is all I have on the police pension.
Great, thank you so much. Any additional questions for Director Skibby? Seeing none, this was just an informational update this evening, so we have no action required on that item. Moving on is the 2025 property tax levy estimate. The Truth in Taxation statute requires that the corporate authorities of each taxing district estimate the amount of its proposed aggregate tax levy not less than 20 days prior to the adoption of the tax levy ordinance. And I will turn this over to Director Skibby to go through the presentation on what we've come up with.
Absolutely. So, as is the city's history, at this meeting, we look at an estimate. At the November 3rd meeting, we would be approving a non-binding estimate for the property tax levy. This is per the Truth in Taxation law from the state of Illinois. And then we will discuss further at the November 17th capital budget meeting before approving the final tax levy at the December 1st meeting. This year, the CPI, the tax cap amount, is 2.9%. So that would be the cap of what we can increase the general fund and the Parks and Rec fund, the special recreation fund, and as a general guideline for what all goods are increasing throughout the city and for our last year. The city staff talked with the mayor and the finance committee chairman about several options for this year's tax levy. All of these options include a fully funding the fire and police pensions. It also includes the required debt service amounts for all of our levy debt, as well as the new issue for the police renovation. Capital improvements are also funded consistently with the fiscal year 26 to 30 capital fund. The differences between the different options really change between how much we increase the general fund, the general levy, and how much we abate the police bonds by. In option A, we are looking at increasing the general fund by 2.9%, not abating the bonds, and then still increasing the Parks and Rec fund and the Special Rec fund by 2.9%. That leads to a increase of 2.58% without the bonds and a 5.45% increase with the bonds. Option B has everything else the same, but we abate the police bonds by $230,000. That amount looks very specific, but it is the amount to bring the phased-in amount of the police bonds to $300,000. When we have looked at models previously, the amount that would be phased in this year was $530,673. So that helps phase in the police bonds a little slower, and so that is why that option was looked at. And then option C takes the general fund, the general levy gets a 2% increase instead of a 2.9% increase, and we go back to a full bond levy. And then option D, the general levy gets a 2.0% increase, and we continue to abate the police bonds by the $230,000 so that we continue to phase in the bonds a little slower. I will point out that the 2% increase to the general fund is below what we know we will have to increase salaries by, what we are seeing in health insurance increases and our general liability increases. So it is not necessarily something we can sustain forever, but we are definitely interested in making sure that we're phasing in the debt for the police station bonds. So overall, staff are recommending option D. This shows how that works between operation, pensions, capital, and debt, and then the library. The library is getting that 2.9%, but this also includes new growth that will be levied for the library, so their total increase is 3.77%. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Levert?
Thanks, Katie. Can you talk a little bit about the abatement and how the pros and cons, and just a little bit more detail about that?
Sure. Through the abatement process, we notify Lake County that we do not want them to collect the full amount of the debt from the taxpayers. So instead of collecting the full amount, they'll collect $230,000 less. And then it will be up to the city to pay that $230,000 from other funds. In this case, we are suggesting that the $230,000 would be repaid from proceeds from the TIF note. And that TIF note historically has sometimes been transferred to capital. So inadvertently, it does take a little money away from capital, but there is funds there to abate the bonds.
Thank you.
And I'll just note to that point too, if you recall, I think from the September capital workshop, part of the thought process on doing that is backloading some of the phased in increase on the police station project to next year, recognizing that overall community-wide levies will be decreasing as a result of some expiring debt with one of the local school districts. So this was a way we thought we could best manage the tax burden on homeowners, taking advantage of that timing next year.
I feel like this is a topic that has come up in conversation throughout my time on council, whether it was the Deer Path Park project or now the police station renovation. So we've been really sensitive to keep things minimal where we can, yet knowing that it's not a sustainable practice forever. Any other comments or questions, Mayor?
Yeah, and again, I think the take-home message here and for the public, that what we're talking about and recommending is in trying to hold the line on tax levy increases and secondarily property tax increases is we're using internal funds. So we're actually levying less than we need to stay even. And we're trying very hard to restrain the growth of everybody's tax bill and the tax levy, but people just need to know that it, as we've pointed out, what we're asking for is less money that it's going to cost us to continue operating, and that money comes from someplace and it comes from other funds, and so it isn't sustainable, but we want people to know that we are very, very sensitive to what's happening with property tax bills. And we can't control everything. We are now, what, 28% of your property tax?
22.
Oh, even better. So, I mean, we can only affect 22% of your bill, but we are really paying attention and trying to sort of constrain that growth to the extent that we can. And I think that's a message that needs to be passed on to the community.
Thank you. Alderman Powers?
Thank you. I echo what the mayor said. I would just add a little specificity to it. So my personal property taxes in 2 years have gone up 16.7%. So it just speaks to the fact, whether it's 67, 115, Lake County Community College, Forest Preserve, everybody seems to be going up. However, I think the value that we've received and the way that we continue to manage this, and I say we've kind of just inherited this. Prior city councils have been doing the same exercise year in and year out, trying to provide that proper balance. So as much as everything seems to be going up, whether you go in town to buy a sandwich for lunch, that seems expensive as opposed to going anywhere else. I think, it's a compliment to the finance staff for the work that you guys have done and taking to heart, that this is meaningful to a lot of people within the community. And it's important that we continue to keep an eye on it because, who knows what the future brings. Thanks.
Thank you.
Maybe one last point, not to keep jumping in, but just for both the public's information and for those maybe newer to the council, if this is the direction that the city council chooses to go, it's worth noting that this would be the 4th consecutive tax levy year where the city's operating levy went up by less than the rate of inflation or the consumer price index. So to Alderman Powers' point and to the mayor's point, we've been trying to hold a consistent line on this for several years now.
And yet maintain the same level of services, which I think is really important because we all want to keep the bar high, which our community has set for many, many years, yet not with the growth at the rate of which things seem to be rising. Any other comments or questions on that? We do have a recommended action this evening. That is to recommend a non-binding 2025 tax levy estimate to be presented at our November 3rd, 2025 City Council meeting. We need a voice vote on this.
Specifically, option B.
Thank you. So we're looking for a motion to approve option D is the recommended non-binding 2025 tax levy estimate.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item of business is our self-limiting ordinance. Historically, the city's estimated annual increases to the debt service cap for planning and forecasting purposes, and this practice has been an important part of the city's capital planning process, allowing it to anticipate future debt service capacity as the capital expenses increase. And Director Skibby, could I have you take over in reference to our police station bond?
The police station bonds have assumed a rate of growth in the debt cap. All presentations previously, you've seen a graph similar to this, with the yellow line there is the estimated growth in CPI. That's a 3% estimate. The current debt cap ordinance does not allows us to increase the debt cap every year by CPI or the municipal price index, but it does not allow us to estimate future growth. So what we are asking tonight is to clean up the debt cap policy so that this can be our actual debt structure for the bonds. I also included this graph here assumes no inflation. So if the policy is not changed, this is what we would structure the debt as. You can see that we keep our current debt cap throughout the life of the bonds. The initial payments are lower than, and then on the end of the life of the bond, the payments get larger. By pushing some of the principal towards the end of the life of the bonds, we do end up paying more in debt service over the life. It is about $1.1 million. But there is a risk with the assumed inflation that the actual inflation will be less than that 3% assumption. So included in that adjustment is language to say if we assume 3 and it comes in lower, we can still pay our bond payments from the levy. There's also some slight wording changes just to clarify that the city's self-supporting debt, so debt that is supported from the water fund or other sources other than property tax levies, are not included in this debt cap.
Any questions? Seeing none, we have a recommended action tonight to recommend approval of an ordinance restating and reaffirming the ordinance number 2024-045, which is our self-limiting ordinance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our next item of business, just a few other things to touch on of informational. We have our flash report. Any questions on the flash report? That's always posted on the city's website. The city does a beautiful job with transparency there. And secondarily is the fiscal year 2025 treasurer's report, and that is on our city council agenda tonight. There are no questions on those items. We do have an opportunity for anyone in the public who'd like to come up. If you could come up, please state your name and address if you choose.
Good evening, I'm Kathy Walker. I live at 345 Awani Lane, right by the viaduct. I'm just here tonight because I wanted to publicly compliment the city on how it managed the sewer project on my street. Phenomenal, you guys. Great, great work. I kind of fancy myself as the mayor of Awani Lane. And in that respect, everybody kind of comes to me and talks to me. And I mean, all the way around the lane, for the most part, everybody was super, super happy with how things were managed. And so personally, I had a fantastic experience with Bernard Pondexter. And again, same thing up and down the lane. Everybody was complimenting his way. He's a great listener. He would walk the streets early in the morning, house to house. Hey, your mailbox garden, we're gonna get to that. Hey, you at the bricks, we're gonna do that. And then I even bumped into him in town when he was walking the streets right in front of, on Deer Path there where the work is being done. And he shouts out, Kathy, hey, how's it going over there? Nicest guy. I just wanted to do that. Thank you.
Well, Ms. Walker, thank you so much for coming up and sharing your compliments. We are certainly very proud of our staff and the work and the projects. Thank you so much.
And I have a question for you. How much do you get paid for the mayor of Awani?
Totally volunteer, but I've been there so long, it's in my best interest.
Wonderful. Without seeing any other comments from the public, I'll go ahead and accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you so much.
Very good, thank you. We will restart in about 3 minutes. I assume.